Thank you, Jan. Thank you also, Holger, and I present the apologies from Professor Chris Carter and Caleb Gardner, who couldn't make it today due to some governance commitments, and also convey their enthusiasm for this subject. So I thought I'd kick off with something quite pragmatic and quite applied, quite technical, about what IMAS is doing. IMAS is like a cousin to TIA. We operate a fairly similar structure of delivering applied research to end users, and one of our major clients, of course, is the state government and its management of marine resources. But as Fred Gale was highlighting earlier, we've started to broaden the concept of what those resources are being managed for beyond achieving the basic minimum standard of ecological sustainability and beyond achieving private economic gains. So we're starting to think about some bigger, broader concepts of integrated marine food systems. We've not often managed our marine resources to produce food. We've often managed them as resources primarily, and seen the sector as a harvesting sector as opposed to understanding it as a value chain. So one of the first areas of work we're working on is we understand as sort of netting the benefits, or understanding the gains in a broader array of types of benefits that could be generated from the management of our marine resources. And that includes some adjustments to our management systems to take account of these. So bioeconomic modelling is an obvious example of those. But I think as in the future we'll start to think of the concept of the economic returns we gain from the sale of our seafood in a different way, like who's gaining, who are the beneficiaries, and how can those gains be broadened, including local consumer benefit from actually being able to eat our fantastic Tasmanian seafood. And the reason I think why it's important is that Tasmania's spatially, of course, represents a really interesting, almost laboratory in terms of marine resource management. We're one of a hotspot in terms of climate-driven change. We've also got some outstanding existing platforms for our marine resource governance, and hence what we're doing to look forward into the future to generate a greater range of benefits is being watched globally, and I think IMAS is able to take that forward. Stock enhancements, another example where we're essentially doing more with less, using ideas such as bringing rock lobster from the deep and dark into the inshore areas where they gain a size where you can then harvest them, where they previously would have died in the deep and dark waters off the southern parts of Tasmania. Is an example of a no cost benefit only type of management intervention we can bring greater benefits. Supporting ecosystems too, we're starting to find that actually leaving a little bit more in the water, and also starting to think of our food production systems not only just as single species management systems, but in an integrated sense can mean we can actually look at increasing or supporting the underpinning marine ecosystems, and I'll refer to that in a minute with a couple of examples. The next part of our big idea about integrated marine food systems is new products and value creation. So we're starting to see a really fascinating discussion about Indigenous harvest of products like Angazi, periwinkle, and increasingly that's moving into our native seaweeds. And there's some developing fisheries occurring, of which seaweeds is classed as one of them, and also in the area of urchins, our native urchin, which I'll get to in a minute too. But speaking of urchins, we've got pests. We've got a significant problem, or not classically a pest, but a range extension of an urchin that's causing all sorts of problematic issues affecting ecosystem services, but also the productivity of some of our major marine sectors. That's a Centra stephanus. And IMAS is really on the forefront of supporting industry to find some really novel industrial solutions to some of these problems in partnership with the state government, including the possibility of commercial abalone divers harvesting some of these Centra stephanus, bringing them inshore, having them ranched up in areas where there may be high eutrophication or high seaweed loads, to actually make them market ready. So there's some of these really innovative mixed systems of seafood production we're starting to see emerge. That moves me on. Oh, here we go, the pictures to demonstrate the products. That's the turbo shell, the pipi, the urchin, and then also we've got Undaria. So many of you who enjoy consuming sushi may not realise that we actually have one of our pests in our waters is one of the Undarias, which can be turned into wakame. So we're starting to see turning an environmental problem into a potential market with the changed market conditions in Tasmania for food. New production systems is actually underpinning this, and our research to support that. So we're starting to see polyculture concepts emerging in aquaculture, where we're not simply talking about, again, like fisheries, single species management systems, but mixed species. And these have got all sorts of benefits. It's able to address some of the byproduct issues. It's able to essentially generate net gains in productivity from a system, and starting to tackle some of our ecosystem problems that I mentioned earlier. So some examples of those, again, are that we're considering looking at some of these pest species as, for example, bait in some of our rock lobster industries, or we're considering looking at some of the polyculture systems in aquaculture as being able to produce some seaweeds for reseeding and restoration of our reef habitats. So these links between fish to farm and farm to fish, we're overcoming those sorts of silos with this research, and that's underpinned by partnerships, even social enterprise partnerships, but certainly public partnerships and research management partnerships that are going to get us there. So thank you for your time.